Hi, folks. This is Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord & Richards, and I'm excited to be talking to you in this segment today about the answer to a question I get all the time. And the question is, Colin, am I taking too much risk or not enough? How do I know? And the concern that's being shared is coming from folks who really wanting to put together a plan to achieve financial independence. Those are the folks we're helping every day, just like you, and we want to help you as well. And so I want to start, first of all, by talking you through the process of how to know if you're taking too much risk or not enough. First, determine what level of risk you can handle emotionally. Determine what level of risk you can handle emotionally. You say, well, Colin, I thought that I'm supposed to be well taught about risk. People are always telling me, you need to put up with risk. So shouldn't I first start with sort of the facts of it and the math of it? Well, no. We're human beings. And what I've learned over the years as I've served many clients is that you might think this is going backwards, but it's really difficult to overcome the emotions of a downturn with your logic alone. When we actually go through those trying times, we want you to be able to have peace knowing that you have already had a conversation and made a decision in advance of the trouble rather than waiting for that trouble to come upon you. So it's better to determine in advance of a downturn the level of risk you're comfortable with. Here at Lord & Richards, my advisors and I have an easy way to help you determine the emotional capacity that you have for risk. We call it the Pyramid of Doom. Not the Temple of Doom, as I had a client recently say back to me, but the Pyramid of Doom. Now, again, that sounds a little negative, but it's actually positive. Because what the pyramid does, it's an illustration that we put up on the screen that allows you to choose from 7 fictitious portfolios. And the reason it's a pyramid is at the top in portfolio A, there's a small amount of risk and a small amount of reward. And at the bottom in portfolio G, there's a large amount of risk and a large amount of reward, forming a pyramid in the graph. And we're simply asking you somewhere between no risk all the way up to 35% of your money risked. If you had $100,000, that'd be a loss of $35,000. If you had $1 million, that'd be a loss of $350,000. That's a lot of money for anybody. And so as you look at those various portfolios, what my team and I ask you is, what is your uncle point, right? What is the point on the risk side where if it's heads you win, tails you lose, where you'll feel that you've gone too far, where the emotions are just going to kick in. And so what we do is we invite our ladies to go first, and you ladies and you men both get to change your mind if you're married. And if you're single, we just go right at it. So we file that away, and a lot of people distribute on the bell curve in a pretty generally similar area. It's kind of interesting to see. Next, after you determine what level of risk you can handle emotionally, you need to determine what level of risk you can handle mathematically, scientifically. And we want to see how well they line up. So we start with a powerful software tool. And we go back and we do our homework and we come back to visit you and we test the current amount of risk you're taking right now in your portfolio. So you can see, is it in alignment with your tolerance, with the emotion? We take your portfolio, we package it up, and we go back in time multiple decades, and we determine how your current portfolio would have done back in the 80s or the 90s, and especially 2008. Then we show the very worst experience from that time period as a downside percentage. So we'll show you, hey, if you owned this same portfolio, and we go back in time multiple decades, out of all the various downturns that occurred, the worst one would have cost you X. And very often in a very typical portfolio, maybe 60% stocks, 40% bonds, something like that, we'll see 25, 30, 35, 40% lost if we relive history. Well, let me ask you right now, how do you feel about that? How would you feel if we had that happen again? And here's a question. Could we have that happen again? That's a really good question. And then finally, we show you the average rate of return your portfolio would have earned over those decades if you keep the same tools that you're using now. So that's a good comparison. How would I be doing on the downside, and what would my average return have been on the upside? And you can see, does the risk and the reward balance out? Was the reward worth the amount of risk you took? Now, in case your portfolio is taking too much risk, we show you a redesigned strategy that hopefully can bring your risk back in alignment with your emotional goal. And you might say, well, Colin, you don't even want to know my emotional goal. I don't want to lose much, if anything. Well, we're going to address that in our next segment and answer this simple question. Is it possible to take almost no or absolutely zero risk and still get growth? So be sure to click ahead to that next segment when this one is done if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. So we also then will test your portfolio using another powerful tool. So now we've figured out, are you taking the right amount of risk currently, and can we get you in alignment with it in the future? But we're also going to test how much probability of success you have if we look forward out into the future. And we have powerful software, once again, that can run up to 10,000 versions of the market in your retirement and show you, with your money, your portfolio, your planned retirement date, your budget, your goals, and even this, the possibility that someone has a very expensive chronic illness. We show you all of that, what your probability of success is. So do you have a 90% greater likelihood of never running out of money? That's great. Awesome. We'll congratulate you, and then we'll go on to see, can we maximize those dollars even further? If it's lower than 90%, well, we're sure going to want to redesign your portfolio to help make sure not only that you're taking the amount of risk that's appropriate for you mathematically, but also appropriate for you emotionally. So not just mathematically, but emotionally. We call this a financial independence review. And this is just one of the many pieces that we do for you complimentary. It's our pleasure to sit down with folks all the time. And from time to time, I had this happen last week. We meet folks who are really right in alignment with both their downside and upside goals, and who have 100% or at least 90% or greater likelihood of success. And then we come alongside and help you in other ways. Can we help you with a written tax plan, a written healthcare plan in case someone has a devastatingly expensive chronic illness, and so on. And so we want to help you any way we can here at Lord & Richards. We're helping folks just like you to not only get retired and stay retired, but to feel financially independent while doing it. And that is the key. And it really starts with a simple conversation over the phone where we can visit about your goals and your needs and find out if it makes sense for us to work together.